Hello, as promised, I've put the pipes on and I'll give you an update on where we're up to. As you can see, the pipes take up quite a lot of room. I've used a larger pipe than is suggested on the instructions because the small ones simply won't fit on, and it was hard enough getting these on. What I've done is I've used silicone tube, and as you can see, it goes, you can just see it on the inside there. It goes from the front, the two hydraulic rams at the front which actuate the steering, and then through the chassis and all the way to the back. Then you've got the hydraulic hoses coming off the hydraulic tank there and going down to the bottom. The two from the rams at the front go down the sides and all come down to this point here. Okay. There are more to go on later, but they go on when the job's almost finished, the trailer's almost finished, and they go on to these two rams here, which are for moving the trailer up and down, to make it easy to facilitate coupling it up basically. What you would do is you would raise it to drive your tractor unit under, then lower it down onto the fifth wheel and couple it up completely. It's a lot easier than lifting a fully loaded heavy trailer up. Things that I've done, obviously I've painted it, and I've not got any other camouflage on it yet. Most of it's painted, and the photo etch is on. I've got one set of photo etch steps on which you've got to put on. That one lifts up and down and falls down again. The fifth wheel underneath, sorry, not the fifth wheel, the kingpin underneath. Difficult to show you that from there, but as you can see, the pipe work runs out from underneath those two rams, goes around the back, leave enough loop in it so that you can move the swan neck up and down from this point here. If you make those two tight, then you've effectively locked it into position. This is the steering actuator for the trailer. The kingpin goes in the centre of your fifth wheel. This goes inside the jaws. On this, it's part of the moulding, so it can't move anyway. But in real life, what would happen is as the unit goes round the corner, it would move this around that U-shaped opening there, and as it was doing it, it would move these two rams and they would turn the steering on the trailer. And on most British vehicles, if you've got rear wheel steer on a trailer, this is connected by cables that run all the way round the trailer and come back to here, and it's a circular unit, so when you go around the corner it turns the wheels. When you straighten up, it straightens them up again. Couple of things with the I looked at a video trying to work out how to put these pipes on, and the guy who'd done the video had glued this spare wheel support on but hadn't put the tyres on it. Now how on earth he was planning on getting the tyres on from there, I've got no idea. So I would advise you, if you're going to do this, build the thing, assemble the tyres on it first, then fix it to the swan neck. The tubing, as you may notice, I'll show you on the diagram, on the instructions. On the instructions, it comes down, as I say, it's a smaller piece of tubing, and it isn't actually tubing at all. It's like, I don't know what it is really. I think it's speaker wire. But as you can see, it's got a mind of its own. It's very, very thin. It's got a piece of copper wire down the centre of it, and I have tried to glue it onto these, to fix it onto these hose connections in various ways, and failed miserably. It's just not suitable for the job. And you know, I think if you paint it when that's painted, it's not going to look real either. So what I've done is I've fastened the tubes on. They then come down the front of the swan neck underneath the steps, and then supposedly they turn and fasten onto these connectors here, these hose connectors here. You then bring another 4 off the top of, which is I'm guessing are coming from the hydraulic tank itself, and move my light up a bit, those 4, and come down with them. Now, as I say, I've used a slightly bigger tube because it's the only way you can slide it over the top of these connectors here. So I've slid it over the top, and they're fixed in place at the top and at the bottom with Gorilla Glue. Well, they're certainly fixed in at the top. What happens is they come down now, and this is going to be fully hidden by a fixed step. He said trying to fix a step. Like so. In other words, you're not going to see any of those connections. So the work you would go to try and get those on, I really wouldn't do it. I didn't do it. What I've done instead is I've run all the pipes to a point there in a straight line. I've then cut a piece of scrap photo etch and fitted it on the top of those hose connections so that it holds all those pipes down, and then I've fixed them with Gorilla Glue across the front there, and I think that's fine. By the time you put your steps on, you're not going to see any of it. You can't see it from underneath, and you can't see it from above. So that's the way I'm going with it. You've obviously got another set of steps in the middle there that I've got to go on yet. Some of the stuff on this doesn't fit together really that well. It was an awful job getting these 2 safety rails in. You can see them there, I'm sure. Yeah, that's it. These 2 safety rails, an awful job getting those in. All the parts on the tractor glued together really well. Not glued together, that's not what I mean. They fitted together really well. You got the odd one that needed a bit of filing, a little bit of fettling. On this, most of it has needed fettling in some way. Some of it needs filling, some of it needs fettling, and some of it needs a bit of both. This tank under here, for example, you can't really see it now because it's all put together. There's a seam across the middle of it, and it's the devil's own job to make that nice and smooth and make it look like a real tank. Everything's just about done there. As I say, make sure you give enough play in your hoses so that you can move that swan neck. Glue it all together. Make sure again, I'm not trying to teach anybody to suck eggs, but I would put the tyres on before you glue that support on, otherwise you're not going to get them on. Be very careful of the palm couplings at the front. Typical American, it's palm couplings instead of the ones we use in this country, which are push fit, but they are very, very fragile, and if you're not careful, I snapped one off and had to re-glue it. If you're not very careful with it, you can snap them off while you're doing other bits. Other than that, I think we're done on that, and I think that's, even though I said it myself, I think that's not a bad job with the pipe work. It looks pretty real to me. Shame I didn't have couldn't use a slightly smaller silicone tube, but I'm happy with that. when I come to the rest of the tube work, there's a lot of tube work on a trailer. When I come to the rest of the tube work, I've determined that a smaller hose will work, silicon tube will work. All these silicon tubes, by the way, I've pushed a copper wire inside them. So basically what I did was I glued them on to wherever they were going with Gorilla Glue, let it set, and then pushed a piece of copper wire down the inside of it so that you can form them and they'll stay formed. I'll put some pictures up on within the video so that you can see how I've done that. That's about all I can do at the moment. I shall make another video when I've got some more of the trailer done. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be most of the flatbed. Seems to be the running gear, step 5, the steering gear, step 6, and I'll do steps 7 and 8 up to step 9, I think. So when I've got step 9 done, I'll do another video. From there, step 10 and 11, as you can see here, it's all tubing and it looks to be really quite complex, but we'll see when we get there. Oops. Ta-da!